He was moments from death, until the alien vampire whispered, "Let me save you my way." Starfall's promise, the crystalline mountains of Azuria, glowed with an eerie blue luminescence as Dr. Elias Verne collected samples along the ridgeline. The expedition was supposed to be routine, catalog new life forms, analyze soil composition, return to the orbiting research vessel Horizon. But nothing on this strange planet had proven routine so far. Approaching Stormfront, Dr. Verne crackled his comms unit, returned to base camp immediately. Elias glanced at the darkening sky where swirling clouds gathered with unnatural speed. "Copy that. I'm about 20 minutes out." He packed his equipment with practiced efficiency, but as he turned to leave, a low rumble shook the ground beneath him. The crystal formations around him began to vibrate, emitting a high-pitched resonance that made his teeth ache. Before he could react, the ridge cracked open, sending him tumbling down a newly formed ravine. Pain exploded through his body as he landed on a bed of sharp crystal shards. One particularly large shard had pierced his environmental suit and lodged deep in his side. Blood pooled beneath him, its crimson stark against the blue crystal floor. "Mayday," he gasped into his comms, but only static answered. The ravine had cut him off from communication. His medical kit was crushed in the fall, and his oxygen levels were dropping. The storm above intensified, electrical discharges dancing between cloud and crystal peaks. As his vision began to blur, Elias noticed movement in the shadows of a nearby crystal formation. Someone was approaching. Through pain-clouded eyes, he made out a slender figure with skin the color of twilight amethyst. Not human. The figure knelt beside him, revealing a feminine face with iridescent eyes that shifted between silver and violet. Her features were hauntingly beautiful, with delicate patterns tracing her skin that seemed to pulse with inner light. "You're dying," she said, her voice melodic yet tinged with concern. Her accent was unlike any he'd heard, each word carrying musical undertones. "Helpful observation," Elias managed, tasting blood on his lips. A sad smile touched her lips. "I am Niara of the Luminari. My people can share life force. I could help you." "Why would you?" he whispered, consciousness fading. "Loneliness," she answered simply. "And curiosity. Your kind has never understood mine." Elias felt cold seeping into his limbs. The medical readout on his damaged suit confirmed what he already knew. He had minutes at most. "I can save you," Niara continued, her eyes now definitely violet. "But it will create a bond between us. Our minds, our essences, they will be connected. It is not a decision to make lightly. Don't have time for light decisions," he gasped. "Let me save you my way," she whispered, leaning closer. "It will change you." The rational scientist in him screamed caution, but the dying man had no such luxury. He gave a slight nod. Niara placed one hand over his heart and the other on his forehead. Her touch was unexpectedly warm. She whispered words in an ancient language, then gently pressed her lips to his. Instead of a kiss, Elias felt as though she was breathing something into him, something that burned like starfire through his veins. His back arched as energy cascaded through his body. The crystal shard in his side glowed white-hot before disintegrating. The wound closed before his eyes, flesh knitting together with purple-tinged light. Niara's eyes were now burning like twin violet flames, her skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. As consciousness slipped away, Elias felt his mind expanding, touching another consciousness vast and ancient. Images flooded him. Stars seen from unfamiliar worlds, civilizations rising and falling, centuries of solitude. The last thing he heard before darkness claimed him was Niara's voice, not in his ears but in his mind. "Now we are bound, Elias Verne. Your life is my life. Your fate is my fate. Welcome to your rebirth." Whispers across worlds. Elias awoke to the soft sound of water droplets striking crystal. His eyes fluttered open, revealing a cavern ceiling adorned with luminescent formations that bathed the space in gentle violet light. He lay on a bed of something soft yet unfamiliar, not fabric but a living moss that seemed to adjust to his body's contours. "You're awake," came Niara's voice from nearby. "I wasn't certain the bonding would take with your physiology." Elias turned to see her sitting cross-legged on a crystalline ledge, her purple skin shimmering with subtle patterns that pulsed in rhythm with... Was that his heartbeat? The realization struck him suddenly. He could feel her presence not just in the room but in his mind, a gentle awareness like a soft whisper at the edge of consciousness. "What did you do to me?" he asked, attempting to sit up. His body felt strange, stronger, yet somehow lighter. "I saved your life," Nyara replied, approaching with fluid grace. "The ritual of essence sharing is sacred to the Luminari. It binds our life energies." Her silver-violet eyes studied him with scientific curiosity. "You're the first human to experience it." Elias touched his side where the crystal shard had pierced him. Not even a scar remained. "How long have I been unconscious?" 3 cycles of our moons, what you would call days. "The expedition team will be searching for me," he said, suddenly alarmed. "They'll think I'm dead." Nyara's expression darkened. "They were searching. Now they believe you perished in the crystal storm. I may have left evidence to suggest your body was lost in a ravine collapse." "You faked my death?" Elias tried to stand but swayed unsteadily. "I had to protect you, protect us. The bond requires time to stabilize." She steadied him with a gentle touch that sent a cascade of sensations through his nerve endings. "And your people would not understand what has happened between us." As her fingers touched his skin, Elias gasped as a memory that wasn't his flashed through his mind. Nyara watching human expedition teams from afar, studying them while remaining hidden, yearning for connection yet fearing discovery. The intimacy of the shared memory was startling. "The bond allows this," she explained, sensing his confusion. "We share not just life energy but memories, feelings, thoughts. It will become more controlled with time." Elias sank back onto the moss bed, overwhelmed. "My whole life has been dedicated to understanding alien life. Now I've become part of it." He looked up at her, really seeing her for the first time, the delicate structure of her face, the wisdom in her ancient eyes. "How old are you, Nyara?" "By your reckoning, I have lived for 4 centuries, she answered. "The Luminari are not immortal, but our lifespans far exceed yours. Or they did. Now that we're bonded, your lifespan has likely been extended while mine may have shortened. The exchange balances us. Why did you save me?" "The truth." Nyara sat beside him, close enough that he could feel the subtle heat radiating from her body. "My people are dying out. Once we were millions across many worlds. Now only a few hundred remain, scattered and hiding. We are hunted by those who misunderstand our feeding requirements." "Feeding requirements?" "We require bioenergy, the life force that flows in all living beings. Historically, this meant consuming blood, which earned us the title of vampires among early human explorers." She smiled sadly. "But the truth is more complex. We don't need to kill to feed. The ritual we performed can sustain us just as well, though it creates a permanent bond." Elias felt a strange mix of scientific fascination and personal connection. "So I'm, what, your food source now?" Nyara laughed, the sound like wind chimes. "No, Elias, you're my partner." "The energy flows both ways. I take what I need, but you receive regenerative capabilities, enhanced senses, extended life. It's symbiotic." Their conversation was interrupted by a distant rumbling that shook dust from the cavern ceiling. Nyara tensed, her bioluminescent patterns flaring with anxiety. "What is it?" Elias asked, though he could already feel her fear through their connection. "Your people have returned with more ships," she whispered, "and they've brought technology designed to detect Luminari biosignatures. They know one of us made contact with you." Elias felt a protective surge that surprised him. Why would they care? Nyara's eyes met his, filled with ancient sorrow. Because the last time humans and Luminari had significant contact, it ended in a massacre. "Your military believes we're a threat to human expansion." She stood with sudden urgency. "We need to move deeper into the crystal network. This sanctuary is no longer safe." As Elias rose to follow her, he felt something shift in their mental connection. A deepening, a warmth that hadn't been there before. Nyara paused, clearly feeling it too. Their eyes met in the violet light, and without a word passing between them, Elias understood that whatever happened next, they would face it together. "I don't regret saving you," Nyara whispered, her fingers intertwining with his. "And I don't regret being saved," Elias replied, surprised to find he meant it completely. Hunted stars. The crystal corridors seemed to shift and rearrange themselves as Nyara led Elias deeper into Azuria's underground network. Their mental bond had strengthened over the past week, allowing them to communicate without words during their frequent relocations. Each time human search parties came too close, they would move to a new hiding place within the labyrinthine crystal caves. They're becoming more methodical in their search pattern, Elias observed as they settled into yet another temporary sanctuary. This one built around a pool of glowing liquid that Niara called star water. Yes, she agreed, dipping her fingers into the luminescent pool. And it's not just humans we need to worry about. The luminary elders have sensed our bond, something unprecedented between our species. They will send seekers soon. Elias watched as the patterns on her skin brightened in response to the star water. In the time they'd spent together, he'd grown increasingly fascinated by these bioluminescent markings, how they shifted with her emotions, brightening when she was excited or fading when she was tired. "Tell me about these elders," he said, sitting beside her. "In all your memories I've glimpsed, they remain shadowy figures." Niara was quiet for a moment, her expression troubled. "The elders are the oldest of our kind. Those who remember our homeworld before we became wanderers among the stars. They guard our traditions fiercely, too fiercely, I believe." She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the pool's glow. "They would see our bond as a dilution of our species' purity." "And what do you see it as?" Elias asked, his voice softening. "Evolution," she answered simply. "Adaptation. Perhaps salvation." Her gaze became distant. "Something is changing within me, Elias. Your human blood. It's altering my biology in ways I never anticipated." Before he could ask for clarification, a sharp pain lanced through his skull. Niara gasped, simultaneously clutching her head. Through their bond, Elias felt a foreign presence, cold, ancient, and disapproving. "Seekers," Niara hissed, leaping to her feet. "They've found us faster than I expected." They fled through a narrow passage that opened into a vast chamber where massive crystal formations reached like fingers toward a distant ceiling. Natural light filtered down through fissures hundreds of meters above, creating rainbow patterns across the floor. "There's no other exit," Elias realized, scanning the chamber. "We don't need one." Niara pulled him toward the center of the room. "The crystals here amplify bioenergy. I can use them to mask our presence, but—" She hesitated, her eyes meeting his. "It will require deepening our bond temporarily. It will be intense." The mental pressure of the approaching seekers was growing stronger. Elias nodded without hesitation. "Do it." Niara stepped close, placing her palms against his chest. Her skin was warm, almost hot to the touch. "Focus on me," she whispered. "Only me." Their foreheads touched and the world exploded into sensation. Elias felt as though he was falling into her, or perhaps she was falling into him. Their minds intertwined completely, memories flowing freely between them. He saw her childhood on a distant world of perpetual twilight, felt her grief when her family was hunted to extinction, experienced her centuries of solitary wandering. And she saw him, his childhood fascination with the stars, his determination to understand alien life, his secret loneliness despite academic success. Nothing remained hidden between them. As their consciousness merged, Elias became aware of a new sensation: hunger. Not for food, but for something more primal, life itself. He understood suddenly what Niara had meant about her changing biology. The overwhelming thirst that had defined her species for millennia was muted in her now, transformed by their bond into something else. The crystals around them began to glow with increasing intensity, responding to their combined bioenergy. The chamber filled with light so bright that Elias had to close his eyes, but even then, he could see Niara in his mind, radiant, powerful, and undeniably beautiful. The presence of the seekers pressed against this bubble of light, then withdrew, confused by the unfamiliar energy signature they encountered. When the pressure finally vanished completely, Niara slowly separated their minds, though the deeper connection remained. They stood in the center of the now dimming chamber, still holding each other close. Elias realized he was trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the intimacy they had shared. "They're gone," Niara said softly, her voice hoarse. "For now." Elias nodded, finding it difficult to form words after experiencing such complete communion. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "I felt it, your hunger. It's different now." "Yes," she confirmed. "Your human essence is changing me at the molecular level. The ancient curse of my people, our thirst for life energy, it's transforming into something new." Her eyes met his, filled with wonder and uncertainty. "I don't know what I'm becoming, Elias, what we're becoming together. Without thinking, Elias raised his hand to her cheek. The moment his fingers touched her skin, a spark of energy passed between them, making them both gasp. Their faces were inches apart now, breath mingling. "I'm not afraid," he told her, realizing it was true. "Perhaps you should be," she whispered. But her hand slid up to his shoulders, drawing him closer. Their lips met in a kiss that sent pulses of light rippling across Niara's skin. Through their bond, Elias felt her surprise, then joy, then a hunger different from any she had known before. A hunger not for life energy, but for connection. For him, specifically. He pulled her closer, their bodies fitting together as perfectly as their minds now did. In that moment, surrounded by ancient crystals and hunted by two species, they found something neither had expected. Not just survival or symbiosis, but love, transcending biological boundaries and centuries of misunderstanding. Eclipse of Trust. 2 weeks had passed since their escape from the Seekers. Elias and Niara had established a temporary home in an abandoned luminary outpost deep within Azuria's southern hemisphere, where the crystal formations grew horizontally rather than vertically, creating vast, cathedral-like spaces. Elias sat cross-legged on a ledge overlooking an underground lake, his eyes closed in concentration. Through their bond, Niara was teaching him to perceive the bioenergy that flowed through all living things on the planet. Under her guidance, his human senses had expanded dramatically. "You're getting better," Niara observed, appearing silently beside him. "Soon you'll be able to detect other luminari before they detect us." Elias opened his eyes, smiling at her. In the 2 months since their bonding, her appearance had subtly changed. The violet hue of her skin now had faint iridescent undertones that shifted in certain lights, and the luminescent patterns that once pulsed constantly had become more controlled, appearing only with strong emotion. "I felt a group of those crystal beetles 3 chambers away," he said proudly. "I'm starting to understand how you perceive the world." Niara smiled, but Elias felt a flicker of unease through their connection before she quickly masked it. He'd noticed this happening increasingly often, moments when she seemed to be deliberately hiding something from him. "Niara," he said carefully, "there's something you're not telling me about our bond, isn't there?" Her expression remained neutral, but the patterns on her skin flared briefly, a sure sign of agitation he'd come to recognize. "What makes you think that?" "I can feel you withdrawing certain thoughts, creating barriers in our connection." He took her hand, noting how natural the gesture had become. "We promised honesty, remember?" Niara sighed, the sound like wind through crystal. "There are aspects of the bond I haven't fully explained because I feared how you might react." "Try me," Elias said, keeping his tone gentle despite the concern growing within him. She sat beside him, her eyes on the glowing waters below. "The bond between luminari is sacred but temporary, formed for feeding then dissolved. What we share is different, permanent. In our history, there have been only 5 documented cases of permanent bonds with non-luminary species." Her voice dropped to a whisper. None survived longer than 1 planetary cycle. Elias felt cold dread spreading through him. "Are you saying this bond will kill me?" "No," she said quickly, meeting his gaze. "The opposite, actually. In each case, the non-luminary partner began a transformation that the elders considered an abomination. They were terminated before the process completed." "Transformation into what?" Niara's fingers tightened around his. "Into something neither human nor luminari, a hybrid being with capabilities that frightened even our elders." Her free hand moved to his chest directly over his heart. "Your cellular structure is already changing, Elias. Haven't you noticed your increased strength? The reduced need for sleep? The way wounds heal almost instantly?" He had noticed these changes but had attributed them to the initial effects of their bond. "So I'm becoming like you? Not exactly like me. Something new." Her eyes searched his. "And I'm changing too. The hunger that has defined my people for millennia is almost gone. I haven't needed to feed on external bioenergy since our bonding." Elias stood abruptly, pacing along the ledge. "You should have told me this from the beginning." "Would you have chosen differently?" she asked quietly. "That's not the point." His voice echoed across the cavern. "You made a decision about my future, my very existence, without giving me all the information." Through their bond, he felt her genuine remorse, but also something else, a deep-seated fear that he would reject her now. Despite his anger, he couldn't bear causing her pain. "I'm not leaving," he said more gently. "But no more secrets, Niara. Whatever we're becoming, we face it together, fully informed. Before she could respond, both of them stiffened, sensing the same thing simultaneously. A search party, human, heavily armed, had entered the crystal network less than a kilometer away. "They've found us again," Nyara whispered, her skin patterns flaring with alarm. Elias focused his newfound senses, following the energy signatures. "There's something different this time. They're using some kind of technology I haven't felt before." Nyara's expression turned grave. "Biodampeners. Technology designed to hunt my kind during the wars. They mask the user's presence until they're close enough to strike." She grabbed his arm urgently. "We need to leave immediately." They moved swiftly through the crystal corridors, gathering only essential supplies. As they approached a narrow passage that would lead them to the surface, Elias felt a sharp spike of warning through their bond. Nyara pushed him aside just as a pulse of energy struck the spot where he had been standing, shattering the crystal floor. 5 figures in environmental suits rounded the corner, weapons raised. Their helmets obscured their faces, but Elias recognized the insignia of the Xenobiological Defense Unit, a military branch specifically tasked with neutralizing alien threats. "Dr. Verne," called a familiar voice. "Commander Reyes, his former expedition security chief. Step away from the alien entity. You're under its influence." "I'm not under any influence," Elias replied, positioning himself protectively in front of Nyara. "She saved my life. We need to talk about this, Reyes. The Luminari aren't what we thought." "That's exactly what someone under alien control would say," Reyes responded flatly. "We have authorization to use lethal force if necessary. This is your only warning." Elias felt Nyara's determination solidify through their bond. Before he could stop her, she whispered in his mind, "Forgive me for this deception, but it's the only way to save you." In a blur of motion, she shoved him toward the soldiers and darted in the opposite direction. "Take him," she shouted. "He's what you want. The first successful human luminary hybrid. I've gotten what I needed from him." The soldiers hesitated, confused by her apparent betrayal. Elias stared in shock, feeling her presence in his mind receding as she deliberately weakened their connection to make her deception more convincing. "Nyara, no," he called out, but she was already disappearing down a crystal corridor, the patterns on her skin flashing in what he recognized as a code they had developed. "Trust me." "Find me, Northern Ruins. The target is escaping," Reyes barked. "Delta Team, pursue!" "Alpha Team, secure Verna." 2 soldiers grabbed Elias while the others chased after Nyara. As they dragged him away, he felt their bond stretching painfully thin, not broken, but muted to a whisper. Through that faint connection, he felt a burst of Nyara's pain and knew she had been hit. Then silence. Twilight convergence. "Extraordinary," murmured Dr. Asher, studying the holographic display of Elias's cellular structure. "The alien DNA has integrated perfectly with yours. I've never seen anything like it." 3 days had passed since Elias's capture. He sat in a sterile examination room aboard the research vessel Horizon, various sensors monitoring his vital signs. They had been running tests continuously, treating him more like a specimen than a colleague. "I've told you already," Elias said wearily. "It's called bonding. Nyara saved my life." Dr. Asher, once his mentor and friend, now regarded him with clinical detachment, and in the process created something unprecedented, a human luminary hybrid. "Your cellular regeneration rate is off the charts. Your neural activity shows patterns we can't even classify." "Where is she?" Elias demanded for the 100th time.
"What have you done with her?"
"The alien was wounded during capture," Commander Reyes said from the doorway. "It's being held in a containment unit on the lower deck." Elias flinched at the clinical terminology. "Her name is Nyara, and she's not an it." Reyes approached, his expression hard. "Dr. Verne, we've worked together for 3 years. I respect your scientific achievements, but you need to accept that you're compromised. The bond you describe is a form of parasitic control." "You're wrong," Elias insisted, struggling to remain calm. The bond with Nyara had dimmed to an aching emptiness in his mind. He could still feel her presence, but barely. They must be keeping her sedated. "The Luminari aren't what our historical records claim. They've been misunderstood, hunted to near extinction because of our ignorance." Dr. Asher shook his head. "The specimen's manipulation runs deep. We'll need to develop a procedure to sever this bond completely." Elias felt cold fear grip him. That would kill us both. We don't know that, Asher replied, though his eyes betrayed uncertainty. Reyes leaned closer. Listen to me, Verna. In 12 hours, we transfer both you and the alien to a high-security research facility on Europa. Once there, you'll be separated permanently. This is happening whether you cooperate or not. After they left, Elias closed his eyes, focusing every ounce of his newfound abilities on the faint thread that still connected him to Niara. I'm coming for you, he projected with all his strength. Hold on. He received no response, but the bond flickered briefly stronger, giving him hope that she had heard him. Hours later, during a shift change when security was lightest, Elias made his move. The physical changes from the bonding had enhanced his strength and reflexes far beyond what his captors realized. Breaking free of his restraints, he incapacitated the guard outside his door and made his way to the lower deck. Niara was held in a transparent containment cell, suspended in a gelatinous fluid that suppressed her bioenergy. Her normally vibrant purple skin had dulled to a pale lavender, and the wound in her shoulder still hadn't healed. The containment fluid was preventing her natural regeneration. The sight filled Elias with cold rage. He quickly disabled the security systems and drained the suspension fluid. As Niara slumped to the floor, he rushed to her side, cradling her head gently. Elias, she whispered, her eyes fluttering open. You shouldn't have come. Too dangerous. I'm not leaving without you, he said firmly, helping her to her feet. Can you walk? She nodded weakly. The shuttle bay, it's our only chance. They moved through the corridors as quickly as Niara's condition allowed, avoiding security patrols. Their bond strengthened with proximity, and Elias could feel her drawing energy from him to heal her wound. I'm sorry for what I said, she murmured as they reached the shuttle bay. I had to make them believe I had betrayed you. I know, he assured her. I felt your true intentions through our bond. As they prepared a shuttle for launch, alarms blared throughout the ship. Reyes's voice came over the intercom. Dr. Verne, you're making a serious mistake. That creature is manipulating you. If you launch that shuttle, we will be forced to fire upon it. Elias hesitated, his hand on the launch controls, not out of fear for himself, but concern for the escalating conflict between species that seemed inevitable. Niara touched his arm, her eyes now bright with renewed strength and purpose. There's another way, she said softly. The bond between us is proof that our species can coexist, even merge. If we can show others, understanding dawned on Elias. You want to go to the Luminary Elders? She nodded. And bring representatives from your side. Show them both what we've become. Not a corruption, but an evolution. A path forward. It was dangerous, perhaps impossible. But as Elias looked at her, this being who had saved him changed him, loved him across the boundaries of species and understanding. He knew it was their only chance for something more than endless hiding and conflict. Together, he agreed, taking her hand. The shuttle launched into Azuria's crystalline atmosphere, pursued by the horizon's smaller craft. But instead of fleeing, they transmitted a message to both the human ships and, through ancient luminary frequencies Niara accessed, to the hidden enclaves of her people. This is Dr. Elias Verne and Niara of the Luminari, the message began. We represent something new, a successful bonding between our species that has transformed us both. We request a council of peace to share what we've learned and forge a new understanding between our peoples. For tense minutes, there was no response. The pursuit ships maintained their distance, weapons locked but not firing. Then simultaneously, signals came from both sides, cautious, suspicious, but willing to listen. 3 days later, on a neutral platform orbiting Azuria, representatives from both species gathered. The Luminari Elders, ancient and skeptical, faced the human diplomatic team with centuries of mistrust between them. Elias and Niara stood in the center, physical proof of what was possible. The bonding ritual was meant for sustenance, not transformation, said the eldest Luminari, her silver eyes fixed on Niara. What you have done was forbidden for good reason. With respect, Elder, Niara replied, our history is filled with fear and isolation. This bond has freed me from the hunger that defined our existence. It offers a path beyond mere survival. Commander Reyes, representing the human contingent, remained equally skeptical. Dr. Verne's transformation raises serious security concerns. How can we trust this isn't some form of invasion strategy? Elias stepped forward. because both sides have everything to gain from understanding rather than fear. The Luminari possessed knowledge of bioenergy that could revolutionize human medicine. Humans offer the Luminari a chance to end their isolation and find a new place in the galaxy. Words, dismissed the elder, prove the value of this abomination you've become. Without hesitation, Elias and Nyara joined hands. The patterns on her skin synchronized with his heartbeat, visible proof of their connection. Then, focusing their combined abilities, they demonstrated what they had discovered in the crystal caves: the ability to heal cellular damage in others, to transfer energy without harm, to communicate across species barriers previously thought impenetrable. As the demonstration continued, the suspicion in the room gradually shifted to cautious wonder. Reyes was the first human to volunteer, allowing Elias to heal an old combat wound that had never properly mended. The eldest Luminari, after witnessing this, permitted Nyara to share a memory transfer, something previously only possible between bonded Luminari. Hours stretched into days as tests and demonstrations continued. Gradually, the foundations of understanding began to form. Not trust, not yet, but possibility, where before there had been only fear and conflict. One evening, Elias found Nyara alone on an observation deck, gazing at the crystalline planet below. Her wound had finally healed completely, leaving a starburst pattern of slightly darker purple on her shoulder. "Do you think it will work?" he asked, joining her at the viewport. "This peace we're trying to build?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Both our species are stubborn, set in their ways, but we've given them something they didn't have before. Proof that another way is possible." She turned to face him, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Whatever happens, I don't regret choosing you that day in the crystal ravine." Elias smiled, taking her hand and feeling the familiar energy pulse between them. "What was it you whispered to me then? Let me save you my way?" Nyara's luminescent patterns rippled with affection as she leaned closer. "And now we're saving each other," she murmured. "And perhaps our peoples as well." Their lips met as Azuria turned below them, its crystal peaks catching the light of the system's twin stars, one blue-white, one crimson, different yet in perfect harmony. Like the beings they had become, neither fully human nor Luminari, but something new and hopeful in a universe that still held infinite possibilities for those brave enough to embrace them. In the observation deck's soft light, their silhouettes merged into one, a symbol of the transformation not just of two individuals, but of the future relationship between two species who had once seen only monsters in each other's differences.